Mike here from Salty Cape, and today I want to talk about how to quickly fillet and skin a striped bass. Now, we didn't catch this guy too long ago. He's about 33, maybe 33 and a half inches. He's been on ice, but as you can see, he's still soft. Ideally, you want to wait till your striper has a little rigor mortis set in. But with a sharp knife, you can still do a reasonable job filleting this fish. Now, the reason why I say a sharp knife is when they're still, I'll call them soft as opposed to stiff from the rigor mortis, their meat tends to be a little more rubbery, so you'll have more resistance with cutting through the fish. And so this is a sharp knife, but I'm gonna just make sure it's extra sharp real quick. And so this is a little sharpener that I like. It's just a little handy pocket sharpener. And then I might use this intermittently throughout filleting this fish. You know, again, it's better when the fish is, you know, in a more stiff situation, but I'm gonna just sharpen and hone this knife. Now, cleaning a striper is very similar to filleting any like fin fish style fish. Starts with a cut behind the head. Step 2 is you're gonna work along the top of the fish, working your way down. And then maybe step 3, you're gonna poke through the other side here and finish the fillet. Now, the tricky part on a striper for a lot of folks is dealing with the rib cage. And so that's sort of you know, just sort of a slower spot where you sort of work up and around the rib cage. There's not a lot of good meat down in this section of the striper. We're really interested in the top loin here, and then the lower loin that starts about right here, right in front of where this bottom fin begins and through here. So the prime meat on a striper is this top area, and then the lower section back here, as you can see down the backbone. So let's start with step 1. I'm going to cut behind its head, nice little angle. Get through those thicker bones at the head of the fillet. Now you can feel stripers have a very pronounced rib cage here, so I'm not going to worry too much about that portion right here. Now what I'm going to do is just flip the fish so it's easier for me to work down the back of the fish. Now, just slow and steady wins the race here. I'm just working my way down right along the top of the fin. So I'm continuing my way down back to here. Now at some point, sort of want to work your way the knife through to the fish. And now see, I've come out the other side. And I'm going to change the angle so I'm facing slightly down. I'm just going to work my way, finish the fillet. So this bottom part is done. Now, you see, now I'm just going to slowly work down the back of this fish. Now, again, ideally when you fillet a striper, you want it to be on ice longer than we have here. I'm already in the doghouse at home, so I'm not going to wait till this guy stiffens up. Just going to keep going. I'm just going to keep the sharp knife. A couple hits goes a long way. Now this is the rib cage I was talking about here. See how I'm just using the tip of the knife and I'm just working. You can hear those bones. I'm just working over those bones. Just taking my time. And see, now I've come through over here. Sometimes you'll get a little bone left in the fillet, but we can fix that after. And just work through. And then it's your fillet. Not my best job, but it's definitely good enough. Can't get them perfect every time. Now here, that's all rib cage. I just sort of bypassed that. And I just have the meat of the fillet. Put these side by side. Now the great thing about striped bass is the yield on this fish. So look at all this meat and how big that fillet. And that's enough for a number of folks. You could feed a whole dinner, a whole family with just this one side of the fish. So you can see how much yield this 33-inch fish has. Now I personally keep maybe 1, sometimes 2 stripers a season, sort of a special treat for me to keep a fish. I tend to release my stripers and focus on keeping the more plentiful ground fish such as scup and sea bass or fluke, tautog. But striped bass are definitely a wonderful fish to eat, and there's plenty of them around to keep 1 or 2 throughout the season. But it's a great fish to have as a special treat. I'm gonna stop yapping and get cutting now for the B-side. So here I have the striper fillet, still has the skin on. A couple of bones have found their way to the head of the fillet. So I'm going to do a V-notch here. Then the last step, to skin it, I'm going to start at the tail and work forward, and I'm going to leave myself a little bit of a nub. So that's sort of the outline of what you're about to see. Now I'm going to go to step 1 and cut my V-notch. I'm going to cut my little nub section here. That's going to allow my fingers to get some purchase on the slippery fillet. I'm going to hold it in place and work the knife. Now you can see with this 8-inch blade, it's just the right amount to get the whole width of the fillet, but not too much where it's cumbersome. Now here's the part, as I get further down the fillet, I get more and more resistance with the knife. So I'm going to get a good grab on this skin here, again using that nub, and now I'm pulling the fillet towards me as I'm pushing the knife forward with just a little bit of a bend in the blade, and I'm working my way through. Out, caught up on a bone or something, out the fillet, and get out this little V-notch here. Usually some sort of ligament will catch it. That's where the bones are at the head of the fillet. Now it's a bone-free piece of fish. Now this is the moment where I just will clean anything up. Got this little bone made its way in here. Sometimes the disadvantage to a really sharp knife is it'll cut through bones when you don't want it to cut through bones. And now, considering this fish, this fillet, skinned at this point, just cleaning it up a little bit. Now I'll slice this into portion size chunks. So here's the head of the fillet, this top loin here. Freezes better when it's in small pieces or smaller pieces. Sits in the fridge nicely. You don't want a fillet all twisted and turned up, crammed in a Ziploc bag. So that's going to give you textural issues later when you go to cook it. And now this fillet is turned into 4 nice striper steaks. Now my favorite way to cook these, I guess I don't have a favorite way, but how I cook it most often is I'll pan roast these. I get them nice and dry, maybe a little salt on them, a mix of canola oil and clarified butter. Get that pan nice and hot, put the fillet skin side down, let it get a nice crust, and then I'll have the oven preheated at 425, and I'll just pop the whole pan in, maybe drizzle a little of the butter oil mixture on top of the fillet, and then I'll get that crust, and then I'll get creative with some sort of sauce or salsa from my garden.